Allora, buongiorno a tutti, benvenuti. Siamo al sesto giorno di giochi, sesto Daily Media Brief. Ieri è stata un'altra grande giornata di sport, oggi ne vivremo un'altra con l'assegnazione di 9 medaglie d'oro, 10 discipline coinvolte e su 10 venue di gara. Ieri abbiamo registrato altri numeri davvero importanti dal punto di vista del ticketing, con oltre 71.000 biglietti venduti. Per l'Italia un momento eccezionale con la vittoria di 2 medaglie d'oro storiche nello slittino doppio uomini e doppio donne, la prima volta per la coppia femminile e dal 94 invece non si vinceva la medaglia d'oro nello slittino doppio uomini. Il presidente Malagò oggi sarà a Cortina insieme all'amministratore delegato Varnier, una presenza d'eccezione che ci riempie di orgoglio. Ci sarà anche il Presidente della Repubblica Italiana ad assistere alle competizioni. Con me oggi al tavolo, oltre a Mark Adams, con cui condivido l'esperienza quotidiana insieme a tutti voi, Christophe Duby, Olympic Games Executive Director, Julie Dufus, IOC Head of Sustainability e Gloria Zavatta, Sustainability and Impact Director di Fondazione Milano-Cortina 2026. Vi ringrazio e lascio la parola a Mark.
Thank you, Luca. Just a few little notices first, and exceptionally, I think, because of the nature of the moving news story, we will actually start with the story from Cortina this morning for the Q&A. But I think sustainability, I hope you agree, sustainability is a very important topic for us, so please bear with us, but I think it's good to take a few questions on the main news of the day, as it were. There are 9 medals in play today. A quick couple of digital figures. NBC reports that the Olympics has already set streaming records for a Winter Games already, with 5.3 billion minutes streamed as of Tuesday. That's up 36% compared to the entire 2022 Beijing Games, which is quite an amazing record. And then I would say the Olympic social media handles already generated over 7 billion engagements. So this Olympic Winter Games is getting coverage all over the world. So let me just turn my attention to events that have been happening now in Cortina, and just a very quick restatement of the facts. I think probably most of you know already, reasonably fast-moving story. But having been given one final opportunity this morning, skeleton pilot Vladislav Karaskevich from Ukraine was not able to start his race at Milano-Cortina 2026 Olympic Winter Games this morning. With regret, we took this decision, but it followed his refusal, multiple refusals, to comply with the IOC guidelines on athlete expression. Despite multiple exchanges and in-person meetings with the IOC and Mr. Karasevich, the last one just this morning at 7:30 with the IOC President Kirsty Coventry, who was in Cortina to meet him, he would not consider the many compromises that we offered him, and regretfully, he will not start and will not compete. I just wanted to reiterate what we said yesterday. We dearly wanted him to compete. It would have sent, would have sent a powerful message, would have sent a very powerful message. We were happy to provide him with a number of occasions to express his grief. Athletes themselves have asked for a safe space to compete, and this is what we have done. It's not about his message. It's absolutely not about the message that he wanted to give. It's simply the place. We wanted him before and after to express himself, but for that 1 minute of competition, we asked him not to make this expression. And you'll understand, by the way, that there are many reasons, many other reasons, not in this case, why we have to do this. There are, as I said yesterday, according to the International Red Cross, 130 conflicts in the world. We cannot have people making statements about those during competition. Before competition, after competition, on social media, in interviews, absolutely, but not during that time. And we also have to consider with some countries and some NOCs the pressure that is put on athletes to express views they may not necessarily agree with. And this rule, the athletes' rule, designed by the athletes themselves, gives them a safe space to compete. That is the only reason. It's not about the message, not at all about the message. It's simply about the sanctity of the field of play. Okay, and I'm happy to take a few questions, but I think I kind of covered the principles yesterday. Happy to repeat for anyone. Yeah, gentleman here.
My name is Halvor Ekland from Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. There has been some other incidents as well. There was a figure skater from who showed the pictures of
yes,
his
yeah, we dealt with that one yesterday, and sorry, carry on. If there are more, we'll look into them.
And back in the Olympics in 2024 in Paris, Petr Palchik, an Israeli judo athlete, he celebrated on the field of play with an Israeli army flag. There was no consequences from the IOC back then. Why is Vladislav being disqualified when there was no consequences back in 2024? And seems like this is just like if they tell the IOC up front, they will be disqualified. If they don't, it's okay.
Yeah, well, that's obviously not the case at all. And in fact, specifically on the one here, which is the one that we're concerned with, the one that you pointed out with the skater, as I said yesterday, we offered and we asked this athlete, this Ukrainian athlete, to do exactly the same. It was after the competition, after the finish line, if you like, it would be in skeleton. He could have done the same. And in fact, we allowed him to run in his training and to take his helmet through the mixed zone. He could have done the same. And so the two, also, I hope you would agree that he lost his parents. It was a spontaneous show of emotion, but it was after the event had taken place. Yeah, gentleman here.
Steve Buckley from The Athletic. If the offer to wear a black armband was in point of fact an act of looking the other way, couldn't it be argued by the public that the IOC could have looked a little further if you align the black armband with the helmet?
Okay. Sure. So the idea, and it has already been enacted once already, is that we can have a kind of universally agreed way of expressing grief, which is the black armband. If we go beyond that, as I said before, with 130 conflicts in the world, 130 different cases, think of the Middle East, think of Africa, think of South America. If everyone is allowed to express themselves in that way, beyond a black armband, it will create a field of play which becomes a field of expression. And even where one may or may not agree with the sentiments, you can see where that would lead to a chaotic situation. And particularly, I think we were concerned about, and when the athletes formed these rules, it's athletes' rules that came after consultation with 3,500 athletes and virtually all of the athlete commissions around the world, framed by the Athletes Commission, elected Athletes Commission. One of the key points they came up with was that we cannot have athletes having pressure put on them by their political masters to make messaging during the competition. So it's a protection. It's a protection. It's not about the message. It's about the place. Yeah, Tariq from New York Times.
Mark, can you this is not my question, to clarify the gentleman from Norway's. Was there any sanction on the Israeli judoka for the Israeli army flag, and did the IOC change any rules? Just to follow up on that. And my question was, you said there were many different efforts and proposals. Could you run through some of those beyond the couple you've just mentioned? Thank you.
So on the Israeli judoka, I don't want to misspeak, but as far as I remember, we did speak to the NOC and we told them that he had contravened the rules. It wasn't... I think one of the issues in this case, I wouldn't compare the two cases, but one of the issues in this case is that it was the clear intention of him to do it. We asked him not to do it. We gave him alternatives, which I'll come to in a minute, and he still carried on. The case of the judoka, as far as I remember, but I'd like to clarify, as far as I remember, it was something that we discovered. It was a one-off. I think we spoke to the NOC at the time and expressed our displeasure. By the way, the large part of the time when we have these contraventions, it largely involves us talking to the NOC and solving the issue. Here, the issue was that we had explained the issue, we told him about the issue, we gave him some alternatives, and he still said that he would go ahead, even though the president, Kirsty Coventry, who was the chair of the Athletes Commission, by the way, when these athlete guidelines came together, she went to see him personally this morning to explain those the many reasons why we wanted it, but particularly for the protection of the athletes. As for the opportunities, I can talk generally, which would be that obviously, as I've said before, athletes are allowed to give interviews, athletes are allowed to express themselves on social media, athletes are allowed to talk in the mixed zone, athletes are allowed to make statements wherever they wish to. We're very happy. I'd even say we might even encourage that. In this case, we even talked about the fact that this athlete could carry that helmet through the mixed zone, so it would get seen. It doesn't get seen in this particular competition. It's 1 minute. But if we start allowing one athlete to have such an expression, then imagine an athlete from another country in a sport where it would be seen for a very long time. It just simply would lead to chaos. So we offered him actually a chance to expose his helmet, to show his helmet. He ran with it 4 times in the training runs. We gave him the possibility to do that. Unfortunately, he decided not to. I should say, by the way, that the meeting this morning between the president and this athlete was a very good and personal, respectful meeting. I think they both came out of it with huge respect from each other. But we had to, with respect, take the decision that we did. Sean, if you don't mind, I'll just have a quick...
Sean Ingle, The Guardian. Two questions. First of all, on that, there were images of Kirsty in tears this morning. It clearly mattered and meant a lot to her. Can you just reflect on that? And secondly, you mentioned yesterday 130 global conflicts. Why should this be different? Some would argue that it's different because the IOC, the only conflict that the IOC are banning a country from is Russia. So we know reasons why, but the general public will think, well, actually, you've banned Russia. Why shouldn't someone that's been deeply affected by it have a helmet of remembrance? So could you just stress those two things?
Yeah. It's true, and I spoke to the president this morning. She was very emotional about this because she invested as an athlete, and particularly as chair of the Athletes Commission, she invested a great deal of time in getting the athlete expression guidelines across the line when she was chair of the Athletes Commission. And without repeating, I'm going to anyway, 3,500 athletes were talked to, all of the athlete commissions virtually from around the world, from international federations, national Olympic committees were consulted, and they came up with these guidelines. They're not IOC imposed from the outside. They come from the athletes themselves. They want a safe space, a space with integrity for them to compete in sport. As for the war, we concern ourselves with sport. Our actions, I can go into it in detail if you wish to, but our actions against suspending the Russian NOC are for sporting reasons and for contravention of the Olympic Charter. It's clear that we have had in the past a long-running, we've had many issues with the Russian government, that's for sure, in terms of Sochi and so on. But this particular issue, the suspension of the NOC, is not a protest against the war. If we were starting to protest against wars, you would have maybe 5 NOCs here today, and in the summer, probably even less. Because once you start, as a sporting organisation, once we start taking stands against wars and conflicts, there is no end. There is no end. And this leads into partly why we have these guidelines, is because if we start reflecting all of those conflicts in the world on the sporting field, there will be no sport. And the one thing I will say is that our job, the one thing we can do, is to bring all of those different countries together, even when they are in conflict. That is something that we can do. It's a powerful message. It may not solve wars, it may not bring peace, but it is a powerful message to bring people together and to say, this is how the world could be if we all respected the rules. Yeah, FAZ.
Christoph Becker, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Mark, you've been saying for 3 days, or explaining the reasoning for 3 days. Now you're saying you have to follow through with this because you have to protect athletes from being pressured, maybe even by their own governments, to carry political messages. Well, that happens all the time. All the Iranian athletes, female Iranian athletes, are forced to carry political messages into the competition because they are forced to wear hijabs. So I don't understand. Why is this the reason now? This cannot be the reason. Otherwise, you would have to insist on them competing without hijabs if they want to.
I will keep on the principle of this. And the principle is, in fact, in line with exactly with what you say, that countries do pressure their athletes. Where we can, and it's the field of play, we do our best to create a level playing field and a safe space for athletes to compete. And we will continue. I make no apologies for that. And I will tell you, you said I said it for 3 days. I'm proud to have said it for 3 days because I'm proud of this organisation and the fact that we provide that platform for athletes to compete. I'm happy to come back here tomorrow, the next day, and the rest of the week and tell you the same thing. So sorry about that. But actually our job, we do it imperfectly. I'm afraid that's like all organisations. But our job is to, as far as we can, protect the athletes and provide a safe field of play. And that is what the athletes want, and that's what we try to provide. Yeah, gentleman here.
Johannes Knut, Süddeutsche Zeitung, Germany. Just a quick question, follow-up on athletes on the field of play. If I remember correctly, there have been Ukrainian athletes who have shown spontaneous signs of solidarity with Haraskevich, saying remembrance is not an offense or shouldn't warrant a sanction, if I remember correctly. Have you approached the NOC about these athletes? Were they reminded anyways of the rules, of the guidelines?
Yeah, and we would agree, remembrance is not a crime, and there's even a place of remembrance in the athletes' village to try to give people a space to do that. Remembrance is absolutely not a crime. I believe we remind all NOCs of the rules. In this specific case, I don't know if we contacted them about that specifically, but I think it also highlights, in another sense, the difference. This is a display. We've asked probably for it not to be done again. I won't be able to confirm that now, but it's a spontaneous display. The difference here is that it was a deliberate act after many attempts at compromise, and in the end, it cannot function, and therefore we have to have rules. They're very clearly there. It's very clearly in the Charter as well. We have to respect the rules. If we have no rules, we have no sport. Yeah, down the front here.
Hi, Juliette McCurr with the New York Times. Mark, I have a question. I know that Russia doesn't have an official delegation here, but I'm wondering if there's been any communication between the IOC and the Russian Olympic Committee or the Russian government regarding the helmet issue. Like if they've complained about it or said like, hey, you should really make sure you're banning this.
I give you the answer only answer I can give you, which is, as far as I know, I have not heard a single word of that. So I don't think that there will have been any communication from the Russian government to us about the helmets. And in any sense, we would have ignored that anyway. We have our rules, and we ask people to respect them. Yeah, gentleman here.
Hey, good morning. Oscar Garcia from The Athletic. You mentioned, you know, we have no rules, we have no sport. What has been the internal conversation during this time about the rule itself? Are you guys talking about adjustments? Is it something that you're going to look at further?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and as we saw this morning, as our colleague here said this morning, it's been quite an emotional conversation for us. Some people, obviously, personally are supporting and feel a great sense of grief also. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we are a professional organisation and we have to get on with that. Will we look at the rules again after the games? We look at the whole games again. Nothing is so perfect that it can't be improved. We will certainly, I'm sure, take a long look and see how that might be changed. But I think in this specific case, without really overemphasising it, because these rules were promulgated and brought forward by the athletes themselves, we could go back to them, but I think it was a pretty long and thorough process of coming back to that, and they made it very clear that they wanted a safe space, and we respected that. But I'm not going to say, no, we will never look at any issues again. Yes, we have no plans, I don't think to, but of course, in a review of the games, you look at all the issues that were raised, and that would be one of them. Yeah, I have a question from the spread out games.
Thanks, Mark. Tracy Adams from the Sports Ambassador asks, even if the rules are accurate regarding disqualifying the Ukrainian athlete, does this not just magnify the issue of the helmet and actually provide more of a platform and therefore is more damaging to the IOC than just letting him compete in the helmet?
Yeah, I mean, the consequences of it are the consequences, and I'm sure in one sense, because he wants to get his message across, then in that sense it will have probably worked for him. But for us, it's to concentrate on applying the rules, and that's all we can do, and that's what we've done. Yes, gentleman at the back there. I think we're going to come to sustainability in a moment, but I want to get a full.
Robert Kemper, German TV ARD. Mark, one question. In the interview with German broadcaster ZDF, Władysław Heraskiewicz said that the reason for stripping away his accreditation, or that he can't start, was violation of Rule 50. So can you please give a reason? And
it's a good clarification, because it's not for Rule 50.
But you even been on Tuesday, I remember that you were even quoting, without mentioning, but quoting Rule 50. So
I don't, anyway, whether I did or not, if I did, I made a mistake, because it's actually Rule 40. And we actually changed the rules in 2024. I've written a note to myself somewhere. It's not about Rule 50, which is political, commercial signs and signage. It's not about that. Rule 40, we changed the Olympic Charter specifically to include the line that the athletes' guidelines should be respected. So it's two different things.
Okay, good. Thank you for the clarification. Second question would be, when got Mr. Heraskiewicz stripped away his accreditation? Was it in the meeting or after the meeting with the IOC president? Could you?
That I don't have the details. Obviously I wasn't in Cortina, but we can get you those details about the actual moments.
Third one, just a follow-on. The outcome of this actions, what happened today here, is that now there's a big let's say, cheering in Russian social media, in Russian Telegram chats about this decision the IOC took. That means, in a way, it is used politically. Are you not entering now to political sphere with this, what happened today, to the skeleton rider?
Unfortunately, we can't control what is said or not said in social media. I have my own views on social media, but we cannot affect that. We cannot stop people from saying what they want to say. It's the right of people to give their opinions. The IOC can't enter into that sphere. If they want to make it political, then they make it political. It's not us. Yes, Graham, over here.
Thank you. On this, Mr. Haraskovic, he did say he would appeal to CAS. I mean, the competition's begun, but all your lawyers are on site. Have you got any awareness of how quickly that could happen and how you could practically help? Because if it's going to try to rewrite the Olympic Charter, that's a much bigger and longer issue. What can reasonably and practically be done today for him?
I'll give you a very, very short answer, which I think you probably know already. Well, we have what's called the CAS ad hoc court. So we have the people here, and their job is to bring remedy in a very timely manner, which obviously in this case would be very timely indeed. I don't know if he has appealed, but we have the ability to set up an ad hoc commission at any time. So if he does appeal, we can deal with it. Whether he could still take part, that's not for me to say. That would be a question for the Federation. But certainly the CAS ad hoc is available at any time and sits very regularly during any edition of the Games, as you probably know, Graham. Okay, we're going to turn now to sustainability, which, as I say, I think is a very important issue, and particularly with Winter Games, it's an issue which has become more and more important. So let's kick off now, with apologies for making you wait, Gloria. Over to you, Gloria, for your comments.
Grazie e buongiorno a tutti. I Giochi Olimpici e Paralimpici Invernali di Milano-Cortina 2026 stanno attuando una serie di azioni olistiche, pervasive, seguendo tutto il ciclo di vita dell'evento. Il primo pensiero è ovviamente la carbon footprint, e quindi il piano di mitigazione per ridurre le emissioni di gas climalteranti emessi dall'evento stesso, attraverso diverse iniziative, tra cui alcune legate all'economia circolare e con principi anche di responsabilità sociale. Il punto di partenza è stato sicuramente, fin dalla fase di candidatura, la scelta delle venue già esistenti per l'85% e che continueranno ad offrire opportunità di turismo, iniziative sportive, competizioni anche in futuro. Tra le varie iniziative che sono state messe in atto per contenere le emissioni di CO2, sicuramente va menzionata l'utilizzazione di energia elettrica da fonti rinnovabili certificate per la quasi totalità delle venue, quindi dove è stato tecnicamente possibile è il 100%, e sia sulle venue competitive che le venue non competitive. Per quanto riguarda i generatori di energia elettrica a livello temporaneo, vengono utilizzati solamente in condizioni di emergenza, e questo grazie al potenziamento che vi è stato della rete di distribuzione appunto di energia elettrica in moltissime venue. Si è spinto moltissimo sulla espansione dell'uso del trasporto pubblico, valorizzando le reti esistenti e interessando tutte le varie venue, anche quelle più remote, da una garanzia di trasporto pubblico con addizionale il trasporto collettivo messo a disposizione per ridurre appunto l'uso dell'utilizzo dell'auto privata. La flotta che è stata messa a disposizione di autoveicoli è stata ridotta di un circa 20% rispetto a quella di Torino 2006, principalmente per politiche di carpooling che sono state messe in atto, e include il 20% di veicoli completamente elettrici. La restante quota utilizza diesel HVO, che è un carburante alternativo al fossile proveniente da oli vegetali, quindi è un alternativo al fossile, e viene prodotto da oli vegetali, grassi e oli di cottura esausti. L'utilizzo di questo carburante riduce mediamente le emissioni di gas serra nell'intero ciclo di vita di produzione da un 60 a un 90% rispetto al gasolio tradizionale. Poi sono state identificate e proposte una serie di soluzioni per la sostenibilità delle infrastrutture temporanee. Infrastrutture temporanee che includono le tende, i container, le tribune, l'energia temporanea stessa, i vari rivestimenti per la vestizione dell'evento e che stiamo portando avanti, potranno essere sviluppate in tutti i settori che utilizzano infrastrutture temporanee e spingere tutto il settore ad avere migliori prestazioni ambientali e anche sociali. Il progetto è condiviso con IOC e ha coinvolto anche l'IBU e la FIS per la raccolta di molte informazioni che sono ancora necessarie per basare questi sistemi anche su l'LCA, quindi il ciclo di vita appunto degli elementi. Altre iniziative di economia circolare che possono contribuire alla riduzione delle emissioni di CO2 che sono state messe in atto riguardano ad esempio il riutilizzo di circa 20.000 elementi di arredo dalle Olimpiadi e Paralimpiadi di Parigi del 2024. Il privilegio sempre nelle procedure di approvvigionamento di beni in affitto anziché acquistati, un piano di riuso a fine evento. Sono state coinvolte le 2 organizzazioni del terzo settore presenti già a livello locale, Banco Alimentare e FM Solidare, per recuperare e ridistribuire il cibo non consumato, ancora edibile però, nell'Evenio. Ed è stato implementato un sistema avanzato di raccolta differenziata, lo potete trovare anche nei corridoi di questa sede, per raccogliere almeno il 70% di rifiuti urbani nelle diverse frazioni. In particolare è stata sviluppata la valorizzazione dei rifiuti dalle bottiglie in PET, che raccolte in maniera separata, e quindi invito ancora tutti a farlo, in maniera separata, quindi garantendo che ci sia la raccolta solo di bottiglie da appunto beverage, possono essere inserite nel processo di bottle to bottle, ovvero da bottiglie di PET a bottiglie ancora di PET o ripet. Questo valorizza moltissimo questi processi che sono a minore impatto ambientale rispetto agli altri più tradizionali. Abbiamo attivato anche alcune partnership per aiutarci in questa raccolta appunto differenziata con AI, che ha disegnato attraverso la scuola del design con il coinvolgimento degli studenti del Politecnico alcuni contenitori che trovate nell'Evenio, competitive, e una campagna di comunicazione, con Coripet in particolare il sistema bottle to bottle delle bottiglie di PET. E poi vorrei citare solo un esempio di un oggetto particolarmente iconico per i nostri giochi, ovvero le torce, che hanno assunto un importante messaggio, ovvero di dimostrare che è possibile produrre oggetti di design bellissimi anche con l'utilizzo di materiale riciclato. Questo è importante perché è stato anche certificata tutta la filiera di questo riciclo, quindi è una cosa assicurata appunto attraverso la certificazione Remade e la tracciabilità di tutti i materiali utilizzati. Poi, come sapete, hanno anche altri vantaggi dal punto di vista ambientale, l'alimentazione con bio-GPL, il peso ridotto, la riutilizzabilità. Quindi per noi questo è un messaggio a tutti i settori produttivi, perché si possono ottenere bellissime prestazioni su prodotti anche di questa natura utilizzando delle soluzioni a maggior sostenibilità. Da ultimo alcune info sull'innevamento tecnico che durante i Giochi olimpici e paralimpici viene utilizzato per garantire le condizioni ottimali sulle piste da sci. E l'innevamento è stato garantito anche dal rinnovo e dall'ammodernamento degli impianti esistenti, e questo ha permesso l'introduzione di tecnologie a maggior efficienza energetica e nell'uso dell'acqua. Quindi questi impianti, come detto prima, utilizzano nella maggior parte, anche in questo caso, energia elettrica da fonti rinnovabili per la loro alimentazione, e sulle piste non vengono utilizzati né coloranti né prodotti biologici, sono solo delle pitture a base prodotti alimentari per la colorazione e la tracciatura delle piste. Inoltre sono stati adottati dei sistemi informatizzati che utilizzano apparecchiature elettroniche come GPS, sensori di profondità della neve, strumenti di gestione dei dati, che permettono ai conducenti e agli operatori dei gatti delle nevi per la preparazione delle piste di parlarsi tra di loro e intervenire solo effettivamente dove le condizioni della pista sono necessarie, questo ottimizzando anche in questo caso i circuiti e i percorsi. Sempre garantendo la sicurezza della pista e le condizioni ottimali per gli atleti. Anche i gatti delle nevi utilizzano i CVO al posto del diesel tradizionale, riducendo anche questo elemento. Con questo concludo un po' le principali innovazioni e soluzioni adottate e resto a vostra disposizione. Grazie.
Thank you, Julie. If you want to make a brief presentation from the IOC side.
Thank you, Gloria. As you have heard from Gloria, they are really focusing on innovation in clean energy, snowmaking technologies, and low-carbon mobility. And I think this shows that the IOC, our focus is really on reducing the footprint of the Games while helping the host regions adapt to the changing climate that we are facing today, and also strengthening their long-term resilience. And all of this work is helping to ensure that we have a safe, fair and reliable competition while reducing the carbon footprint of the event, but also supporting these host regions in adapting to this changing climate. So as you've heard from Gloria, they've reduced by 85% the competition venues which are, they have 85% of competition venues are existing. And this is one of the highest reuse rates that we have ever had at the Games. Most of the competition venues are powered by renewable energy. The backup generators and almost all the snowcats are run on HGV, which is really pushing the innovation in the snow sports. Snow production as well is kept to a minimum required, and using state-of-the-art technology that reduces water and electrical use, we are leaving behind a legacy that can benefit these communities in the future. But the IOC's work goes beyond what we do at the Olympic Games. We are also working on our own carbon footprint, and we are on track now to reduce by 50% by 2030. We also work closely with the international sport federations and the national Olympic committees, and all of this combined with the organising committees is making them drive sport more sustainable. We have many partners, and some of those are the United Nations, where we work with the Sports for Climate Action Framework and the Sports for Nature Framework to really drive action in sports. And recently, some of you hopefully saw that we launched our IOC Climate Action Award winners last week to really celebrate the efforts across this Olympic movement to address climate change through sport. So at the IOC, we're really committed to driving this innovation from Games to Games, and driving that positive impact that we see in the communities that we have seen here at Milano-Cortina. So on that note, I will pass over to Christoph. Thank you.
Over to you, Christoph. Yep.
Bon, it's a lot of ground covered. Can I say, sustainability is not a word. Sustainability, as you heard, is actions which translate in results. And thank you for doing all of this, Milano-Cortina. You've been trailblazing for what is a new model. And we can go back to the model, dispersed and the consequence, but what they've done is simply exceptional. Thank you for doing this. For the IOC, for sports in general, sustainability is a priority. We don't have the choice. We don't have the choice not to have positive impacts in the three spheres of sustainability. Economically, we have to be impeccable. And when we see the result of these games with a massive economic impact, and the byproduct of this, we tick that box. Socially, what it means to be in those regions where they have the expertise and continue to develop this expertise. And by the way, you should know that in China, we have Chinese media here. In China, we had a lot of Italians to help in preparing for the Games in 2022. And these people that are now working on these games will find them in France, probably. These are jobs that are created not only in sport expertise, but across. And obviously, from an environmental standpoint, we have to do it right because climate has an impact on all of us. And that's not only for winter. This is winter and this is summer. We won't go into all the details here, but the games have to adapt to new realities. Sport have to adapt to new realities. I mentioned the other day we changed the marathon from Tokyo to Sapporo. Do you know how difficult that was? And you know what? It was the only right thing to do. And here we have adapted to a region which has it all. And you said it, Gloria, we didn't have to build. Everything is temporary except one venue, which was a profound renovation, and one that was needed, Santa Giulia, which will leave a fantastic legacy for the city of Milano. So all in all, we have to factor in sustainability not as a byproduct or a tick-the-box activity, as an absolute priority for the IOC, for sports in general. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Christophe. Okay, sustainability. I'm looking around. Presentation must have been... Ah, notre ami de France. Yep.
Merci Marc. Bonjour, Bruno Fraioli de sportbusiness.club. Je posais ma question en français. J'ai remarqué, non plutôt je n'ai pas remarqué de fontaine à eau, en tous les cas sur les sites sur lesquels je suis allé, notamment ici par exemple. J'ai remarqué aussi beaucoup de ventes encore de bouteilles en plastique. Alors est-ce que l'organisation n'a pas fait le choix des ce qu'on appelle les éco-cups en plastique? Et justement, à la cérémonie, j'ai eu en main un gobelet en aluminium. Alors, est-ce que c'était de Coca-Cola? Est-ce que c'était uniquement sur cet événement-là? Ou est-ce que vous avez également distribué ce type de gobelet en aluminium sur d'autres sites et d'autres événements? Merci beaucoup.
Gloria, I think, yeah.
Ok, allora il tema della vendita di bottiglie di plastica riguarda anche un'ipotesi di fattibilità in venue che sono molto disperse una rispetto all'altra, molto distanti, e spesso non hanno nelle varie venue delle connessioni con il sistema di distribuzione dell'acqua potabile sufficientemente adatte per poter installare dei distributori di bevande. Quindi la scelta è stata di questa natura. In più, come le accennavo prima, il sistema bottle to bottle, cioè il recupero delle bottiglie in forma separata di PET, ne permette il riciclo diretto in altre bottiglie di PET, riducendo quegli impatti a cui fa riferimento. Il tema delle cerimonie invece è stato perché per una questione di sicurezza anche le bottiglie non era possibile distribuirle all'utente, al consumatore finale, e quindi dovevano essere aperte, versate in un bicchiere e lasciata la bottiglia e i vari tappi all'interno delle zone di ristorazione. Questo per un problema proprio di sicurezza che abbiamo discusso con il Ministero degli Interni. Sul tema invece delle bottiglie in PET, questo non so se sapete che devono essere sempre distribuite con il tappo in HDPE, è stato appositamente riconosciuta la particolarità di un evento di questa natura e vengono staccate dal concessionario in modo da poter ridurre gli elementi ipotetici di sicurezza e poter essere distribuite in questo modo, ma evitando di riversarle in un bicchiere in modo tale da ridurre comunque la produzione di due streams di potenziali rifiuti.
Thank you very much. Yeah, question at the back there. Yeah.
Mark, thank you. Question for Duby. You just mentioned the Chinese company or partner. Could you share one or two stories of Chinese company or partners that are helping the Milan 2026 more sustainable development? Thank you.
I can share many stories from Beijing 2022. I've traveled the mountains in Yangqing and Zhangjiakou for 7 years prior to the game. So yes, I could share a lot. What I did as well is go to a big convention in December, which is the Winter Convention. And what I could see there is a lot of Chinese brands very active on very, very novel technologies, including artificial snow. I could even snow in the convention hall. So we will see more and more Chinese product for a good reason. Winter sports, probably thanks to the games, I would feel, are now very popular. We were aiming for 300 million participants at the time. We are close to 400 now, and if you see pictures of some of the slopes any given weekend, it's pretty impressive. So yes, a lot of things were done in Beijing, and what for me remained the most impressive is that all the venues were on the grid renewable energy. So we didn't need any temporary power, all renewable, emphasis on this. But also you went very far for snow production and recovery of water, especially in Yangqing. And the one last thing that I would mention, which made a difference, is the coolants for all the ice rinks. And this was a new technology as well. It had never been tested, and the results were fantastic. Great quality of ice and less environmentally impactful. So many things out of China that we learned and transferred to the next games.
Okay, I think that's it. I can't remember who asked me the question about the Israeli judoka, but yes, we did issue a small statement at the time, and we were in touch with the NOC at the time. I'm happy to provide that. I think it was you, sir, but we had a little statement at the time. So yes, we did deal with it on the spot there in Paris, as we try to do with all the other cases. Thank you very much. I will see you. I think we're back to normal time, 11 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you very much. See you all then. Thank you to the top table.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, just to tell you that tomorrow's press conference is at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. tomorrow.